Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dynasty Wonderland podcast. With me, your host of the Mad Chatter, Ryan MK, and right by my side, as always, the March Heron, Aaron Stewart. How we doing today, buddy?
Oh, doing good, man. This is the way to end a Monday, that's for sure.
Oh, fucking right. Especially, it's a cold Monday here. Getting a little snow here in the Denver area, which actually, in this area, not all that uncommon to get a little bit of snow around Mother's Day. So not surprising, but another good thing about Denver, it'll be gone before we know it. His shit melts right away most of the time. So we're good. Little cold, but good. All right. And don't forget to follow us on the Twitters at RMK Madness, at AARonStew09, and of course, our podcast account at DW_pod. Now, hope everyone's had a good weekend. Aaron, you as well. I know me, I got a lot of writing done, which was nice. Don't forget to check out Aaron and I's writing on playerprofiler.com, of course. And I got a lot of Mario Party in. We got a little Switch action going on. And man, we used to play the shit out of the wife and I, the GameCube Mario parties, and we just loved the hell out of it. And we got the Wii. I got a used one. Didn't last very long before it broke, so I didn't get to enjoy it that much. But we had one of the Mario parties on that. But man, the Switch Mario Party, we love some Mario Party. And the kids are all getting into it. And you were saying you love you some Switch action as well.
Yes, sir. So currently my Switch is with my nieces there because they utilize it a whole lot more than me. And I bought the new Pokemon Snap, which that's trip down memory lane, right? Oh, the N64. And it's really cool to see the graphics on this and just to see a whole new generation of Pokemon fans. My nieces take to it like, I don't know, like fish in water there. They love it, and I love just watching them. And then we get in a competition. We see who can take the best pictures, And I'm not going to let them win.
Right. Dude, my wife loves the 64 Pokemon Snap. We own it. She fucking loves that game. So I'm going to have to surprise her with the new version, definitely. Because that's a good one. Wish I would have known about that before Mother's Day. That would have been great for Mother's Day. Anyway, and happy Mother's Day to any mothers listening. That just happened as well. And most of us got moms somewhere. I mean, all of us got moms, I guess, right?
You got to take care of those moms too. Yep. Sometimes we've even got like adopted moms, the moms of our best friends that also basically raised us as well. So, yeah, thank you, moms, for putting up with all of us.
Yes. Crazy ass children. They can be difficult. One day, my kids will very much appreciate their mother for what she's put up with. Anyway, before we really get into the football, I wanted to bring up the NBA and NHL playoffs again because we're very close. And the NBA is doing something. See, 2020 was cool in the respect that sounds terrible to start, but in the respect for sports that it kind of made everybody try some new shit, do things a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of nice to see leagues trying to maintain and some of that and trying to change, and just go away from some of the norm. And there's some mixed responses to what the NBA is doing here with their play-in tournament. Apparently, LeBron James isn't happy about it, but it sounds kind of cool to me. I mean, it sounds like, okay, you got the 7th and the 8th seed are going to play each other. Whoever wins gets that 7th seed locked in, and then the 9 and the 10 seeds play each other. Whoever loses is out, and the winner will play the loser of the 7-8 matchup, if this makes any sense, if I'm explaining it right. And eventually you're going to get to the 7th and 8th seed. And I think it's a cool idea. LeBron James doesn't like it because the Lakers are currently sitting in 7th place in the West. And I don't really care because just one second. I got a little beef with the king. I always have. I brought him up on my other podcast, the Miscellaneous Debris podcast. Shameless plug right there. And shameless plug, don't forget to check out my new little skit show, Crazy Shit About Space. Check that out. Just me talking space, because I love to talk space. But I digress. LeBron James. I used to just, when he joined the Heat, I had just this anger towards him about just the way he did it and all this, and I'm like making it such a show. And then over time, I let it go, and I was like, yeah, just let the dudes do whatever they want to do. And he went to Cleveland and brought his hometown a championship, and I was like, okay, all right, LeBron, we got some respect for you. But then, you know, for being such an advocate of, you know, people lower on the totem pole, I guess I would say. The whole thing with the Rockets GM Daryl Morey, when he was speaking about Hong Kong, and basically LeBron James kind of like, shut up. Because why? Because the NBA, I mean, they make a lot of money from China. And so they didn't really exactly want to ruffle the feathers of China. And to me, I just didn't like that. If you're going to fight for equality, for people's rights, you got to do that shit all around, right? Mm-hmm. And so then I kind of once again lost my respect. So I have a little bit of a beef, a love-hate with LeBron. But I'm going to tell you what, regardless, I'm going to check out Space Jam 2 because it looks fucking sweet. And and I loved the first one. And this one looks crazy because it sounds like they go through the Warner Brothers dimensions. So I think we're going to see more than Looney Tunes, but it's going to be a lot of fun. But anyway, I just wanted to get that out about LeBron. But Aaron, what say you about this play-in tournament? Because I disagree with LeBron. I think this is a great idea.
Yeah, and one of the things I'll say that the NBA has always been great about is, like, baseball has kind of been a dying sport, you know, for younger generations, right? Like,
they're resistant to change.
Right. It's this is the way we do things, and it's tradition. And I will give basketball, the NBA, credit that they've always tried to do things differently and try to catch on with younger audiences as well. And growing up, I was a huge NBA fan. I'm a massive San Antonio Spurs fan. I live in Northeast Texas. Like, I should be a Mavericks fan, but I'm a Spurs fan. I love Tim Duncan, favorite player all time. Like, so underrated, so good. And we talk about LeBron James. My favorite story was when the 2014 San Antonio Spurs teams just stomped LeBron James in the Miami Heat. It was a 5-game series. It wasn't close at all.
Was that the series LeBron where he had cramps?
Yes,
that series.
Cramps. Okay. He had cramps. A little backstory on that one is the Spurs and Heat played in the finals the year before. We were up 3-2. It was game 6. Like, the Spurs were up like 5 points, I think, with less than 30 seconds. Like, they were already preparing to prepare the locker rooms for champagne and everything. Like, the Spurs are going to win. And then what we know happens is Chris Bosh gets a rebound, Ray Allen 3-pointer, dagger. They force a game 7. They win. Just devastating. Like, that was like that. I couldn't believe it. I was just demoralized. I was like, this is the last time I'll see my Spurs team like ever in the NBA finals. Next year, it's the rematch. And it was so amazing just to get that revenge where we're like, you might have barely gotten by and beat us 7 games. And we curb stomped it from the first game there. And they had no answer for Boris Diaw, this overweight Frenchman. That was our LeBron James stopper. And the ball movement, like, that's something, I think that's why I've started to like the NBA less and less, is it's isolation basketball. It's not fun to watch. I love the Spurs. What they do is, if a guy got the ball, he would dribble twice and already pass the ball. If someone had a wide open shot, they would find someone that had an even better shot. Just the ball movement. Every single player touched the ball before someone shoots the ball. They didn't care if Duncan led the team in scoring, a young Kawhi Leonard led the team in scoring. It was just beautiful basketball. And with LeBron as a basketball player, I acknowledge, like, he's the greatest player, right? Like, if God was to build a basketball player, build LeBron James.
Right.
I hate his shenanigans, like, off the court. I can't stand it. he's not always the most likable guy. And yeah,
No.
like the China thing left a pretty bad taste in my mouth. It's like, come on, like you have the platform to stand up for this, but
Yeah.
money talks apparently. And I'd say in recent years, I I kind of follow my Spurs, but the rest of the NBA, I don't.
I feel you. I feel you. I kind of like with football, I had my period of time where I got out of sports, but very as a young child, I was a Nuggets fan, obviously living in Denver. And then when I got back into sports, being in Iowa, Midwest, I kind of, because I was liking the Vikings, kind of rooted for the Timberwolves, but I kind of just rooted for players. Like I did enjoy the Timberwolves at that time, Kevin Garnett. Um, and I really enjoyed the Mavericks because I liked Dirk. I fucking loved Dirk. And and it was I just and there was a period of time where I loved the Sacramento Kings back in the day when they used to have those battles with the Lakers because I couldn't root
Oh
for the
yeah.
Lakers. Fucking hated the Lakers. And so I kind of latched on because I liked watching Mike Bibby in college when he played for Arizona. So I kind of got attached to Sacramento because of Bibby. Him and his always sitting on the sideline clipping his fucking fingernails. and, and I love the shit out of that dude. And like the Spurs, man, they would always get me because the teams I would root for, a lot of times they would lose to the Spurs, but I could never hate the Spurs like I hated the Lakers, and some of the other teams. Like I just like because how do you hate like a Tim Duncan and a Kawhi? They just like quiet dudes that just go do their thing and they just go to work, go play ball. And like, how do you hate Tony Parker, Janot? Like, how do you hate those guys? and as a team, they played so beautifully together. Like, it was a hard team, even though they got you and you irritated because they were so good and always winning. But you just couldn't hate them in the same way as you could with the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe. And you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I actually I had a lot of as many times as they broke my heart, the Spurs, I had a lot of respect for them as a team. Popovich, I mean, not just as a basketball coach, but the way he speaks out about, social injustice and equality, like he's on that shit all the time. Like,
Mhm.
and I just respect the hell out of that place. And they're always going to be like one of the tops in the NBA just because of that run and Popovich and everything. Like the Spurs are the shit, man. The Spurs are the shit. They're not doing so good right now. They're not so much the shit right now, but
It's this awkward period where they should be like full on. They like years ago when they lost Kawhi, they should have tried. They should have started the rebuild, but they were still kind of wanting to compete. And we know how that goes. If
right.
like in dynasty leagues, you're either contending or you're rebuilding. You shouldn't stay in the middle, and that's what the Spurs did for like 3 years.
Well, I think they thought they'd get more from LaMarcus Aldridge than they did. I don't think they felt like he'd be like a substitute for Duncan, but I thought they'd be able to kind of use him in the same vein. And he just kind of, I mean, I never thought he was like the greatest player, but I certainly thought he was better than what he showed after he went to San Antonio because he did not look good in San Antonio, Aldridge.
Some of that's age, and some of that
Yeah,
was it took him a long time. Like if he would have just moved to center, he could have been okay. But he was with age, he was slow, and it hurt him on defense. And then we were just like the NBA has changed so much; it's more perimeter oriented, and when you got Aldridge out there with another 7 footer that can't really space the floor, like it kills you. And about the time he made the change, it was too late. And at this point, we hope that he just has good health. I know he was forced to retire because he had a heart condition, and it's like, man, you hate to see a player go out that way, but just glad that they caught that before it became an even bigger issue.
right, for sure. Yeah, the NBA is different now than it used to be. Guys like Aldridge, you know, they're not as valuable. But I'm okay with that. A lot of people don't like it, but I kind of like the explosion of the 3-point shooters and because really one of my favorite things in sports is a comeback. And man, you get in some of these games where, being down 7 points with like 40 seconds left, that ain't much anymore. Like you can come back from that. That's one thing I've always loved about hockey is you could have like a minute left in the game, less than a minute, and it could be a 3-1 game. And literally in like 15 seconds, it can be tied. Like I've seen the craziest shit in hockey. It's my number 2 sport. And so I kind of like that with basketball. It just makes it, I think, a little bit crazier. And a lot of guys coming up now are starting to, hey, got to have kind of some sense of a 3-point shot, right? So it is getting different. It's not for everybody, it would seem, but I enjoy it. And I'm interested to see how this playing tournament goes.
Absolutely.
All right, buddy. So we move on to the NFL news. Not a ton to get to, but we begin with Tim fucking Tebow. Okay, I gotta even put my joint down. I got a few things about this because number one, Aaron. But how is it so easy for him to come in and get a job? I mean, I get Urban Meyer, but it's like, dude, where you been? You've been off playing baseball and shit. And like, it feels like it's taking opportunity. I mean, now don't get me wrong. Coaches are going to do what they're going to do. If they really feel like he's worth a shot, then who am I to tell Urban Meyer no? But to me, this seems ridiculous. And I'm just, we've talked about, Aaron, me and my issue with people, the extreme, going to extremes in any length. And Tim Tebow goes around and basically tells people, believe in Jesus or you'll go to hell. Like, I've seen him I'm sorry, but if this dude walked up to my kid and said, you must believe in Jesus or you'll go to hell, like I'm punching him in his face. So I don't like that. But to each their own, not going to get in a big discussion. But it just, that I have little things that I don't feel like he's the best dude, despite the image he tries to portray. And now he's sneaking in there on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And hey, he hasn't played football in a while, but it's not like he's done nothing. I mean, he has been doing the baseball, so he's surely kept in shape. But now he's trying to play tight end. I mean, to me, I'm like, hey, shit, for all I know, maybe he'll be able to do it. But to me, this all just seems stupid. And Tim fucking Tebow. And I just can't believe after all this time, he's back. He's fucking back. And I just can't believe it, Aaron. And I just want to I don't know, Aaron. I don't know what I want to do. It's scary. It's scary, Aaron, because, okay, I'm done. Please, Aaron, your thoughts.
There was something, and I can't remember where I heard this from, but it'd be an intriguing thing, is that maybe instead of it being like, maybe he makes the team as a tight end, but I was hearing that maybe they get him in there and they're going through training camp. And Tebow, he's getting up there in terms of an athlete. He's 33 years old. He'll turn, 34. Man, like we know that we've seen players go from one position to tight end and have success. And even recently, we've seen Logan Thomas go from quarterback to tight end. That took some years. The number one thing is athleticism, and that was always like way back in the day when Tebow mania was a thing. Is they went, if you want to last in the NFL, it's not going to be as a quarterback. They wanted him to play tight end, and it's weird. Like that was back in the early 2010s, so it is interesting. Like why in 2021 finally make the jump? But I think some of it is just he wants to at least I tried. I don't think he's guaranteed a spot there. And if not, like it could be something to watch where it transitions from him trying to make the team as a tight end to maybe being an assistant coach on Urban Meyer's staff.
Mm.
There's someone that knows an Urban Meyer offense. It'd certainly be Tim Tebow, in which, like, if you go to Wikipedia and you pull up, on the right side is career highlights and awards. Oh my goodness! Like, you sometimes forget how good of a collegiate football player he was. So it's interesting. I am kind of with you in terms of you only have 90 roster spots.
Mm.
And I get that the tight end position for Jacksonville, there's not a lot there. There really isn't. But why go with the player that, I mean, does he even make it through training camp with, and yes, he's been playing baseball, but that's not the same as football shape. It's, jumping from any sport to another sport is a difficult transition.
Right.
Like, why that when you could sign any of these undrafted guys, which a little foreshadowing, that's what we'll be talking about today. Like, why waste a roster spot on a player that might play one more year? Like, I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It seems to be more of the more that Urban Meyer makes decisions for the Jaguars, the more I'm like, oh, you poor Jaguar fans. Like, this is going to be a horrible rebuild. It really is.
It does.
You're not focusing on the
Yes.
right things. So
No, I feel like, and people can say it's love for James Robinson or whatever, and I always have a little bit of a piece of him in my heart just because he was the guy in my undrafted article, undrafted free agent article, my first one. We'll talk about my second one later. My first one, he was the one that truly, truly did something special, and so got a little love for him. But it's also, when you got that back on that contract, why the fuck are you taking one in the first round? That seems poor team management. I just, not that I know everything, but God, I'm with you. It seems, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But
it's poor Jaguar fans, if you guys exist. I don't know. Like, Jacksonville doesn't like the Jaguars because they're trying to move the team to London, and so. Oh, for you few Jaguar fans.
The London Jaguars with Urban fucking Meyer.
The all elite Jaguars.
Right. We move on from fucking Tim Tebow to DK Metcalf. Wanted to bring him up just because he was in the USA TF track and field, the Golden Games, and he ran a 10.36 100-meter dash and finished 15th overall in at the event, 9th in his heat. So, I mean, for a football player to just go do that thing, that's pretty fucking impressive.
Absolutely. And that's something that, I mean, people are ragging on him for finishing 15th place. So it's like, are you kidding me? This guy's a freak. This guy is a physical freak.
Right. Most
As you
of the
mentioned,
people,
you could just go do it. Yeah. So,
yeah, because you got to figure most of the people that are in the United States of America track and field Golden Games, most of those people have been training for this track and field shit all year round, right? This is what you got to figure. And DK Metcalf probably trained for it a little bit, went out there, placed 15th. I mean, to me, that I find it impressive what he did. For not being his thing to just go out there and just rely basically on his athleticism and whatnot and his speed, and just, there you go, bam, finish 15. I think it's pretty impressive. So I'm with you, Mr. Aaron. The Colts have signed Eric Fisher. Does this do anything for you? Does this boost the Colts offensive line?
I mean, it's the biggest complaint that people had with the Colts offseason is they didn't do anything at left tackle. They're like, they went into the draft, they didn't take a left tackle.
Right.
And the Colts is a team that I follow pretty closely. I like Chris Ballard. I like what he does. And his approach to the draft is like, they don't draft for need. Like, they know that's not how you build a strong roster. And it just so happened that the draft board, the way it shaked out is that, yes, they could have grabbed a tackle, they would have reached. They like the defensive ends that they got. They got Kwity Paye That was a guy they were really high on. And then the second round, I hope I pronounce it right, Deo Odeyingbo. But people are like, oh, they didn't get a left tackle. They're going to be trash. And, they had signed some veterans. They had Sam Tevy, Julian Davenport. Those are guys that have been around about 4 or 5 years, have got a handful of starts in their career, but are clearly not like the guys you feel comfortable with starting at left tackle. But people, they're like, oh, they didn't draft a guy. They didn't address the position. It's like, well, besides Fisher, there was also Charles Leno, who had 5 straight seasons. The past 5 seasons, he hasn't missed a start, not just a game, a start at left tackle. There was Russell Okung, the longtime Seattle guy that I want to say played in Carolina last year. He dealt with some injuries last year, but 11 years experience. And then a guy that I thought was a dark horse to join Indianapolis was a former Philadelphia player, Jason Peters. 17 years experience, 12 in Philly, in which he played with Carson Wentz and Frank Reich. And so I was like, there was options to at least be the starter for a year. I think Fisher was the best, and the key thing will be how quickly he can come back. He did rupture his Achilles late in the season. It was playoffs. It was the AFC Championship game. But as they mentioned, the Colts talked about that. They were asked, like, do they have any worries? And their main thing is they said they're not going to rush them. They know it's a 17-game season, so they're taking into account the additional game. And it may be that, let's say, a quarter of the season they're working with Sam Tevy. Is it ideal? No, but like at least like when you're kind of sorting things out and getting some important reps for what's probably going to be your swing tackle. Then you bring Eric Fisher, who's hopefully healthy at that time. That's going to be an upgrade. And the rest of that offensive line is so dang good. And if anything, Quentin Nelson could slide out to left tackle. I think that's something that people haven't even talked about, is that maybe if Fisher's not 100% and can't start from day one, maybe Nelson slides out to left tackle to shore up the most important offensive line position. So I think it's kind of been overstated, the Colts' lack of a left tackle. It's not that they haven't done anything. And then Fisher's going to be just perfect veteran guy that, for 8 seasons in Kansas City, it started off being a bust, but kind of worked his way into being a solid, if not unspectacular, left tackle option. And with the other 4 guys there, that's really all they need. It's just solid.
I like it. I'm kind of hoping to see some good stuff from the Colts this year. Just I'm not a big Wentz guy, but I'd like to see, I'd like to see the haters back off of him a little bit, I guess.
Absolutely.
And then just a little bit on the A-Rod Packers drama. From everything I've read, it would seem Mr. Rodgers is entrenched in his position. The Packers, they believe somehow they can make amends and whatnot, and this can happen. But with Aaron Rodgers basically telling people that free agents not to go there because he's not coming back, all this stuff. I mean, sounds like it'll be pretty damn hard to talk him into coming back and playing. And it does sound like, per reports, the Green Bay was indeed looking at some quarterbacks both in the draft and in free agency. So is that part of why they want to keep Aaron Rodgers? Because they maybe think, maybe we were wrong on Jordan Love. What's going on there? And then also it appears that the Denver Broncos would be sitting there waiting for such a conversation to be had about a trade for Mr. Aaron Rodgers, almost like dogs just drooling, waiting for that big slab of meat, just sitting there drooling. They're ready to make him, I'm sure in part to get the quarterback, yes, but also so they don't look like fools for not taking Justin Fields at number 9. So, March Heron, what make you of all this Aaron Rodgers Packers drama?
I'm just ready for it to be over. This has been a story.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, this Packers Aaron Rodgers stuff has been years, and it's just there's fatigue. It's like observing it. It's either kiss and make up already or break up. Like let's just get it over with. And
I'm with you.
It goes to show just how, I mean, it's kind of deja vu if anything for Packers fans. I mean, this was exactly what happened when they drafted Aaron Rodgers. So you almost feel bad for Packers fans until you realize it's like, yeah, they went from Brett Favre straight to Aaron Rodgers straight to we'll see with Jordan Love, but another first round pick quarterback. And if you're taking a guy in the first round, you better believe in him. And we saw that Rodgers sitting for a few years that helped him. NFL's changed. You don't really get that luxury anymore, especially because teams know that a quarterback on a rookie contract, that's your time to like go for it and win now, because you can afford to pay more money on all the other positions. So it's messy. I'm just ready for it to be over with. It's just fatigued by it, honestly.
I agree. I'll try not to bring it up next week, or at least I'm just waiting for something to happen, because part of it is I feel like Denver has to know something. Like they cannot have been that stupid. But also, I would like to see Rodgers somewhere else. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and feel bad for him or the Packers and their fans, but I do feel like Aaron Rodgers has been one of the greatest. And I do feel as though that organization hasn't done quite enough to help him win, I guess. And so it would be nice to see him go to somewhere like a Denver where he can step up and there's an improved defense and all these offensive weapons, and where he can just go do his thing, and something like that to see him be able to do would be great, because it does feel like just the team has kind of hampered his greatness a little bit in some occasions. So that's how I kind of feel about the whole thing. But I'm with you. Let's get this shit over with. Anything else, Aaron?
No,
you're over it. You're done.
Just ready for the trade. Like when there's a trade and we got something exciting to talk about it, yes. Until then, it's like, oh my goodness, they talk about it every day.
Right. Yep. We'll let it go. We'll pack it up and wait for something to actually fucking happen. I'm kind of expecting not to hear anything. If something does happen, I imagine it's going to be after June 1st, right? It's a more likely scenario. So might as well sit and wait on it for a few weeks and see what happens. All right, take a quick break. We come back and talk a little strategy for your rookie drafts. Be right back. All right, the Chatter the Heron, we're back to chat some draft strategy for those rookie drafts that everybody's doing now. And we're going to let Aaron begin, have him get into, and I figure this is a Dynasty podcast, so we're mainly talking Dynasty. We can get into a little redraft at the end, but mainly let's talk a little bit about how just your standard Dynasty league, whether it be one quarterback or super flex, you can kind of go with both. But your standard, 12 to 14 team, where are you at when it comes to rookie drafts in general this year? Give me anything you got pertaining to this time of year and how you approach things.
Certainly. Well, this point of the year, I've already completed some rookie drafts. I've done some mock drafts with people that know their stuff. So I got a pretty good feel for the board. And the number one thing for dynasty drafts is don't draft for need. Your needs are going to change so quickly from year to year. And you're going to look back on drafts like 2-3 years from now, and you go, why the hell did I take this player, the much inferior prospect, to a superior player? And I'm guilty. I've done that. I've done that in the past, and I just left kicking myself. So even if it's a position of strength, like draft the best prospect. And taking this year as an example, like, it's no secret here that the running back class sucks. Like, if you're not grabbing one of the big three, Najee, Travis Etienne, and Javonte Williams, don't reach for these next guys. Like, yes, we're seeing Trey Sermon go in the first round in 12-team drafts. What the hell are you thinking? Insanity. Don't do that with Michael Carter. I know, it's insane. Like, these guys, they're not. This isn't last year's rookie class where there was like 6 great running backs. Like, after the big three, I'm fading the running backs till the end of the drafts. Like, don't give me Michael Carter and Trey Sermon over a Rondale Moore, an Elijah Moore, right. Heck, even a Terrace Marshall. Like, you're gonna regret it, because more than likely those 2 running backs, they're not gonna hit. And if they do, okay, but they're not gonna be game changers. I'd rather wait till the end of the draft, round 4, round 5, however many rounds your draft is. Look at some of the running backs you can get there. Jared Dokes, a big old boy that's going to Miami, where there's Gaskin and that's it. There's Javeon Hawkins. We're not going to talk too much about him right now, but even though he was undrafted, he finds himself in a good spot in Atlanta. Jamar Jefferson, yes, he fell down the draft board all the way to the 7th round of the NFL draft, but he still has a good profile. And that's a guy that in Detroit, they just got rid of Kerryon Johnson.
Right.
Maybe it's because they got Jamar Jefferson. Chris Evans and Kene Nwangwu, like, those are very explosive, great athletes at the running back position. Those are the types of guys that you want to target at the end of your draft, guys that have athleticism, and that athleticism is what can propel them to fantasy success. So stop drafting running backs round 2 and round 3 of this year in particular, because there isn't guys to target there. What say you, Ryan? What's been kind of your advice with rookies?
Well, see, normally when it comes to rookie, if it's super flex, I'm going to try and hit a top quarterback if I can. Unless this is kind of a situation where I do see need coming into play, because especially if I'm in the middle of the draft or later on in the first round, no need to try and trade up, do anything crazy if I'm set for a top quarterback, if I'm set at quarterback. Stay where I'm at, take a different position. But ideally, that's what I want to do, because I want young quarterbacks. But I also want young running backs, okay? And this is no matter what draft I'm doing, except for redraft leagues. But when it comes to Dynasty, whether it's Superflex, regular, I want the young running backs, because, as we've talked about in previous episodes, I am someone who definitely likes to cycle those running backs and just keep the fresh ones coming in. And after you've had them for a few years, get them out of there, trade them away. Better a year early than a year too late. So I like to attack the young running backs. This year, I can't agree with you anymore. It's those top 3 guys or nothing. Or wait till the end of the rookie draft and try and grab one of the names you said. There's some very solid guys that you can take a chance on at the end of the draft. These other guys are not worth. I've seen Michael Carter go like early 2nd. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. But on the other hand, by all means, go ahead. You're just leaving the good players for the smart people. So that's kind of where I land, because my thing is if I can get my hands on some solid rookie receivers, sure. But with receiver, I'm much more likely to, if you look at my Dynasty rosters that I've had for 2 or 3 years, you'll see a lot of young running backs, young quarterbacks, and then you'll see tight ends and receivers that are a little more established, a little bit older, maybe mid to late 20s, kind of in their primes, right? And that's kind of how I like to do, because those receivers are going to be usable a lot. Usable is a terrible way to say that. You're going to be able to rely upon them a lot longer than you will running backs. So keep those running backs young, and you really, if you're not getting a lot of rookie receivers, that's okay. Because at some point, you're going to have running backs that you're going to be able to trade, and you're going to target like a DJ Moore, like I did this year when trading a high-end running back. Someone like that. You know what I mean? Like you start targeting these established receivers. So that's kind of the way I like to approach, I guess, things in general. So when it comes to the rookie drafts, I'm definitely looking for running back. And then after that, if it's a super flex, I'm definitely going to pay attention to the quarterback situation. Other than that, I also love rookie drafts for grabbing just flyer tight ends at the end of the draft. I love taking chances on tight ends too. So that's another thing you'll see on my dynasty roster is like 5, like, oh man, I've had like, I remember one year it was like Jonnu Smith, Ian Thomas, Cahale Warning, Foster Moreau, like all just right there. And George Kittle as the starter. But so I like me some late round tight ends. But this year in particular, it's tough because it after that group of quarterbacks and those few tight ends and Jamar Chase and Rashad Bateman, there's a handful of receivers, but I mean, it's just kind of blah.
It gets ugly real fast.
Yeah. And so I'm of the opinion, if you can, when you're in these drafts, if you don't like what's there, try and trade out of it. Whether it's giving up the pick entirely, if you do, in that case, try and get something for the next year. Mm-hmm. Or at least try and trade back. Maybe you'll find something you feel better about the value of later on, a few spots later, whatever. So, do what you can to try and trade out of it. Doesn't always work, obviously. Sometimes you just got to bite the bullet. I had that in my first rookie draft on Sleeper just recently. And I was like, I don't know what else to do, but I'm going to reach on Javeon Hawkins. Like, I probably could have got him in the next round, but I'm like, I want to make sure I get him. And there's nothing I like right here. And I'm like, so I guess I'm reaching. And nobody wanted to pick. So, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But I definitely think, if you don't like what's there, try and do what you can to get out of it, And there's definitely some of that. It just feels like once you get past the very beginning of the second round, it's pretty bad after that.
Very much so.
But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on everything. And definitely some late round guys like that I do like. And we'll get into some undrafted guys here before long. But I really like some of the names you said. Kylan Granson of the Colts is one of those tight ends I'm going to be nabbing up in the later rounds. I actually just in the draft I just talked about, I picked him up as my final pick, Granson. And so definitely some guys we're taking a chance on later on, but the middle rounds feel so gross. But that's okay. That's okay. It should, I say it should be better next year. But I've heard a lot of people say it's not going to be much better next year. But I don't know enough college football to say yes or no to that. And I'm taking you don't either.
I've heard a little bit about 2022, but things change. Like I remember that this class was supposed to be really good, and then we finally got into the prospects. We're like, ooh, it's actually really not quite as good at all. Like it got quarterbacks, thank goodness. That's its saving grace.
Right. Well, let's go ahead and move into undrafted free agents. And the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the guys that I have highlighted in my newest article that will be coming out at some point this week. Some undrafted free agents to target in dynasty leagues. And then I'd like you, if you want to add anything on or whatever you want about any of these players. And then of course, if you have anybody you'd like to bring up, feel free to do that as well. And I begin with running back. And Javeon Hawkins. And I only put one running back in there this year. And although I do have some interest in Puka Williams, but I just decided to put Javeon Hawkins, because this is my James Robinson of this year. And I do believe he will be the James Robinson of this year, because as you mentioned previously, the dude couldn't have landed in a better spot. A team that did jack shit else for the position other than cut Ito Smith and bring in Mike Davis. And I'm sure, hey, no offense, Mike Davis had a good year last year, and I'm sure he'll be decent. Not a game changer, I don't believe. And so you bring in Javeon Hawkins, and he's got great workout metrics. Speed score a little on the lower side, not what we like to see, but he ran a 4.51. That's in the 75th percentile. Agility score in the 74th percentile. And his burst score above average. This guy landed in a spot with Kadre Olison and Tony Brooks-James behind Mike Davis. That's gross. And people will say, maybe they re-signed Gurley. No. They ain't got no fucking money, man. They ain't got no fucking money. So I see that it's very possible very early on in camp, as with what happened in Jacksonville last year, I could see Javeon Hawkins working his way up to that number 2 spot. And should Mike Davis falter or Javeon Hawkins just play better, you never know what could happen. So this is the guy I highlighted. He's my first guy, number 1. I feel like he could be this year's James Robinson, and that's how I begin, my friend.
I really don't have anything to add to Javeon Hawkins. Like, you nailed the key points there. This is a guy that's dynamic. Yes, a little on the small side, low BMI.
True.
But
True.
To be a satellite plus back, not a satellite plus back, but just a satellite back, and if he's involved more in the passing game, that's what for PPR leagues we care more about that. And arriving in Atlanta where there's Mike Davis and nothing behind him is good. And I could see the roles, they moved on from Ito Smith. They tried with Ito Smith to have the small satellite back. They clearly weren't filling it with Ito Smith. And Javeon Hawkins happens to be right around that same size, a little bit smaller, but I think it's because they see that what Ito Smith failed to be, I think, is what they envision Javeon Hawkins being. So I could see a role for him. And that's all we want for our rookie running backs is opportunity. It's why we liked Jared Dokes when he got to Miami Dolphins, is because there's Gaskins and nothing behind him. So it's the same thing for Hawkins. The only thing is Dokes got drafted late in the 7th round and Hawkins didn't.
Right.
That type of draft capital difference shouldn't move the needle much for us.
And I do like what you said, because he is more that satellite back mold. And so I don't think you would have to wait for anything to happen with Mike Davis. Mike Davis can just do his thing and be his normal self, and Javeon Hawkins can have a role. I think you're totally right about that. So it's a great point by you. Now, I'm going to talk about wide receiver Tamari and Terry. I know some people don't like this dude, and I understand one of the comparisons, Justin Blackmon. But I would also say Justin Blackmon had a pretty good year once upon a time before he started getting in lots of trouble, So I didn't hate Justin Blackmon. And currently, if you look on his page, he's compared to Michael Gallup. Now, got to pull this dude's fucking profile up before I forgot to do it before I started talking about him. But I know the big thing here is, to begin, is that the Seahawks drafted Dwayne Eskridge. But I would like to say, not a huge fan of Mr. Eskridge. There's not a lot. He was a 5th-year senior, and he never went over 1,000 yards. And more so, It feels like just more Seahawks crap of like they didn't have a first round pick. So their very first pick of the draft, they went fucking receiver. Like, what the hell are they doing? They were just talking this offseason about how much they like Freddie Swain. I got excited. I gotta like Freddie Swain. I like him a little bit. Dwayne Eskridge, what the hell is going on here? So maybe this pans out. Maybe I'm underestimating Eskridge. If not, and they're really not that sold on Swain or anybody else that could potentially be there for their third receiver, which may not even fucking matter if they don't let Russ cook. But I think Tamari and Terry has a chance. 4.5 40, 103.7 speed score. That's the 80th percentile. 70th, blah, blah, blah. Percentile in college yards perception. 71st college dominator. Dude's got some things to look at and like. Some world beater? No. But I kind of like the Michael Gallup comparison. Obviously, Michael Gallup's not doing much right now, but I would like to kind of see him somewhere else and see what he can do because I do think he's a talented receiver. So I kind of like that comparison. So that's what I got on Tamari and Terry, one of my 2 wide receivers that I put in the article this year.
Well, no, I'll add to Mr. Terry here. It was a shock that he went undrafted.
Right.
I know there's some people that didn't like him, but the first thing that stood out to me was, holy crap, he played on such a bad Florida State team. People don't realize how bad it was. This was the same Florida State team that caused people to kind of write off Cam Akers, like, oh, he's not that good. Like because Akers, they're like, his yards per carries, because that offensive line was like historically bad.
I remember that. Yeah,
it was something like only 2 yards of Cam Akers like rushing was actually like blocked for, right? And what stood out to me, so 2020 was a rough season for him. Like he was playing through some injuries, and it wasn't up to what he had been doing his previous 2 seasons. And 2018, 2019, right? Like his first 2 seasons, he redshirted and then played at Florida State. Those first 2 years, he combined for 95 catches, and he averaged over 20 yards per reception during those 2 seasons on a bad Florida State team. Go look at that quarterback performances during those seasons. It's remarkable that anyone had production. And in fact, his 2019 season, like his big season, he had almost 1,200 yards receiving. And in fact, the next highest receiver, like Tamari and Terry, he tripled the receiving yardage of the next best receiver. Like he was killing it. And his target share, he just barely exceeded 20%. It was 21.3. So despite him tripling the amount of receiving yardage of the next best receiver in 2019, it wasn't that he was just this target hog. I mean, barely exceeding 20%. Like that's something that I look for receivers to hit that milestone. But like to see that type of just like target, well, not even target hog, but the hog of the receiving yards, I would have expected his target share to be like 30%, but it's because he makes every single catch count. And you look at his build, the 6'3", 207 pounds, clearly has speed. That's what you talked about. And you see it in the stat sheet too. Just that what he did pre-2020, he's got a role, and his role with the Seahawks is he's probably not going to be a starter, right? But like he would be like Metcalf's direct backup. Like, Metcalf needs to come off the field because who knows, they might want to keep him fresh because we've got this extra game. Like Tamari and Terry is built as like a smaller DK Metcalf that would be this vertical threat. They're just going to tell him what they told Metcalf: hey, just go run straight, and Russell Wilson will find you. So I could see this guy getting on the field, and who knows, maybe in 3-4 wide receiver sets, like it's going to be Metcalf lining up on the outside on one side, and Tamari and Terry on the other side, and then Eskridge and Lockett as like the slot guys. You can make a case for it. He's definitely the most talented fantasy football player that wasn't drafted. It was shocking. And yeah, I like the Justin Blackman comp too, because like that just shows what he could be. If Blackman could keep his head on straight, he was a monster. So Tamari and Terry with a Justin Blackman and Michael Gallup comp, I'm on board with that.
Hell yes. Yes, that is exactly. I love how we're on the same page so much. It probably doesn't always make for the best content. Like these guys just agree with each other. But hey, I do.
We had Devontae Smith.
Huh? Yeah,
we had Devontae Smith, so
that's
we
true.
were on the opposite sides sometimes.
That's very true. Okay, my next one, Josh Imator Bebe. More I look at this dude, I love him. I've spoke on him before. 93rd percentile college dominator, 71st percentile college yards per reception. Played on this terrible ass Illinois team with a shit pass game. So that can kind of explain away some of the things. But this dude has a lot to like. He ran a poor 40-yard dash. That's about okay. And agility score was lower. But there's a lot to like. And the more I go about, because when I first thought about this, I was like, as much as I like this dude, I cannot put him on the list because of his landing spot. But then I go back to his landing spot. And I'm like, really, okay, Marvin Jones is there now. He's getting kind of up there. Really, is there that much competition? There's a lot of names there, a lot of receivers, a lot of bodies. Other than Chark and Chenault, is there really anybody that's impossible to beat out? I mean, for all we know, maybe even Chark or Chenault, we have no idea what Urban Meyer's going to do. Clearly, because he signed Tim fucking Tebow. So we have no idea what he's going to do. So, you kind of get a little bit of a clean slate feel once these new coaching staffs come in. So I do wonder, being someone that was added by this team, if he's going to have a chance to really impress early on and get on this roster. And because you never know after that. Like I said, I like Chark. I like Chenault. But after that, I mean, again, how much does Marvin Jones have left? And then look at the other names on the depth chart. I mean, it feels like there's a chance. What say you, Aaron?
Well, if we're going to target the undrafted guys, let's get the super athletic guys. Like that burst score just blows me away. I mean, he's 100th percentile, literally in his own tier with athleticism. And you look at the scouting notes on the guy, and everyone says the same thing. It's that like his dominance, and my God, he was dominant, a 47.9%, 93rd percentile college dominator. It was 100% due to athleticism. Like all the reports are, he's a raw route runner. He doesn't really like run routes. He's just athletic. And it's like, that's awesome. You can teach guys to run routes.
Right.
You can't teach guys to be athletic. So seeing this player that has a perfect body type for like what could be an alpha receiver, 6'1", 218 pounds, awesome. With off the charts athleticism, it is with undrafted guys. They're all slim to begin with, and their chances of being fantasy relevant. I'd rather roll the dice on the uber athletic guy and seeing him just get on the field, make some plays with his athleticism. I mean, that kind of takes me back to Marquez Callaway, an undrafted guy that he made a little bit of noise with the New Orleans Saints his rookie season, and it was mainly because he got the ball in his hands, and you could just tell the guy was fast and had burst and could get open. Maybe it's the same thing with Josh. I'm going to try and pronounce his last name. Imator Behebe. Did I get it? I don't know.
I don't even really know, because I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure you just say Bebe, but I'm pretty sure the first part I say Imator, but I'm pretty sure even that said it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't fucking know.
Hey, but with this guy here, and this is going to be a fun offense because Urban Meyer's is college teams. They run a spread offense, and it was utilizing just freak athletes. I mean, Curtis Samuel is the first name that comes to mind. So why can't this guy run kind of the similar routes? Like they may be like, hey, don't run these complicated routes. Like let's just get the ball in his hand and then watch that 100th percentile burst score like go. And then they may just tell him, hey, just run in a vertical line. And with that 96 percentile catch radius, we're just going to throw the ball and see if you catch it. So he's going to be fun. Going to be rooting for him. And I think with that athleticism too, like you mentioned, the top three spots, Chark, Chenault, Marvin Jones, whatever order you have them in, those spots are locked up. So what do you do to fill up backup roles? You're looking for guys that play special teams, or maybe guys that have athleticism. And I don't think he played special teams. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but hey, with that athleticism, maybe they start trying them on some returns.
Well, and I just think the athleticism, if it flashes early on, you'd think they got to at least stick him on the practice squad.
Right. So,
but yeah, that's my guy.
We're undrafted guys. That's what we want.
Even to a baby.
Athleticism.
Baby. So, next, I have some tight ends because last year I put 2 running backs on the list, 1 tight end. This year I went the reverse. 1 running back because of the crap class, even though I like kind of Puka Williams. Like I said, I was kind of making a statement more than anything. I went with a couple of tight ends. One, our boy that we've talked about a couple of times before, Mr. Quinton Morris. And like some of his production, breakout age, decent workout metrics, and he lands in Buffalo, which is interesting because apparently they've been a team interested in the Zach Ertz sweepstakes, which may or may not happen. He may just get cut. Who knows what the hell happens? And so you've got that situation. They don't seem to be sold on Dawson Knox. I'm not entirely sure why. He hasn't been perfect, but he does have some good efficiency metrics and some things about his profile. His target separation was second at the position last year. So I'm not sure what it is they have entirely against Dawson Knox. And maybe there's, not that he's special, but maybe they're looking for something more. Well, maybe, just maybe, they have it in Quinton Morris. So we've kind of spoken about him, as I've said. So I want to concentrate a little bit more on one Briley Moore, undrafted free agent of the Tennessee Titans. This fucking guy. If you see his profile, 40-yard dash, 71st percentile. Speed score, 69th. Burst score, 90th percentile. Agility score, about average. And then a catch radius in the 68th percentile. This dude's workout metrics are great. College dominator in the 70th percentile. Same with yards per reception. Breakout age in the 85th percentile. There's so much to like about this guy. And you look at his profile. He played for Northern Iowa. And if you go back and read some about this dude, man, he was like their elite weapon for a time. And then in 2019, he gets hurt. And then I'm not sure what happens, but he doesn't return to Northern Iowa after that. He transfers to Kansas State. And of course, that was in 2020, the COVID-riddled year. So I think after he got injured at Northern Iowa, he kind of got off people's radar. And I think people are really missing out on something here. And this is another guy along with Javeon Hawkins. I think, how could you have found a better spot? The Titans no longer have Jonnu Smith. Their starters, Anthony fucking Firkser. Get the fuck out of here, Firkser. Fucking Firkser. No. I mean, he's okay. Whatever. But Briley Moore. Give me more of Briley Moore. I want to see more. And I want to learn more. But I got a good feel for him, put him in my article. He's someone I'm excited about, someone I'm going to try and nab wherever I can, because the path is there if he can shine in camp. And he's got everything: athleticism, college production, breakout age. It's there. So we'll see, because again, perfect fucking landing spot. I'm so excited about this dude.
Well, right, me too, because I got to add something on this one here, because Tennessee Titans, of course, in the offseason, they lost Corey Davis and my favorite player.
That's right, Corey Davis, yes.
Jonnu Smith. Yeah. And with them losing Jonnu Smith, people go, like Anthony Firkser. And Firkser is going to get fed because he's a glorified receiver. He's a receiver posing as a tight end. Cool. But the Tennessee Titans offense utilized both Jonnu Smith and Anthony Firkser, and they have this just huge hole with Jonnu Smith gone, because there really wasn't anyone there that could fill that role. But you brought up Briley Moore, and you start looking at these guys side by side. They're similar size. Jonnu Smith is more athletic, but Briley Moore, he's no slack in the athleticism department. Like, right, Jonnu Smith, his SparkX score is 93rd percentile, and Briley Moore is 92nd percentile SparkX. The other thing too is you go to the best comparable comps, and Jonnu Smith's best comparable on Player Profiler is David Njoku. David Njoku with hands is how he's been described on Roto Underworld. And Briley Moore, Tyler Conklin is his best comparable, but his number 2 is also David Njoku. Like the Briley Moore, Jonnu Smith, like corollary right there. Like they got their Jonnu Smith replacement, and they didn't sign him. They didn't even draft him. They got this guy in free agency. So Briley Moore,
crazy.
I'm paying attention to him. He's definitely like, I got to move him into up my rankings a little bit, because that he's got everything you look for. That is a perfect late round target. Yeah,
I love him.
And then I've also got some guys too. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I did have in the article, I added in honorable mention Jamie Newman. He's someone else we've discussed again before. Perhaps he's someone you wanted to talk about. But that's basically, I hope I didn't give too much away. I hope everybody still goes and reads my article. But that is what I got for you for the Chatter's crystal ball on those guys this year. And let's hear a little bit from the March Heron's crystal ball. What do you got for undrafted guys?
Well, there wasn't really any quarterbacks, and you mentioned the only one that's really interesting, Jamie Newman. And I saw that you got the tight ends covered, so I don't have any tight ends there, especially like Briley Moore, very much on the same page as you. So I've got 5 guys as well, 5 different guys. And the number 1 guy I want to start with is Sage Surratt, wide receiver, Detroit Lions. It's really simple with Sage Surratt. Look at that depth chart in Detroit. We talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown. He is a better receiver prospect than Sage Surratt. At the same time, that depth chart is wide open for anyone. Sage Surratt's best comparable player is Colorado State's Preston Williams. And we saw Preston Williams come out of nowhere a couple of years ago with the Miami Dolphins. And it was the same thing. It was like there is nothing there in Miami, and Preston Williams happened to walk into 60 targets in 8 games. He was on pace for 120 targets, right? And you take his stats and you double it if he was on a 16-game pace, right? He would have been on pace for 64 catches, just under 900 yards and 6 touchdowns. So that was an undrafted guy. Like, we got a greater than 0% chance that Sage Surratt in kind of a similar situation where there isn't the veterans there, Brashad Perriman, Tyrell Williams. These aren't guys that are locks to, command 5-6+ targets a game. There's opportunity for Sage Surratt. And also, Sage Surratt, he played 19 games in college, and he saw a whopping 179 targets. He averaged, for his career, 9.42 targets per game in college. This is a target hog. Holy crap. And he scored 15 touchdowns in those 19 games. The dude in his offense, he was the guy, and that contributed to a 44.9% 90th percentile college dominator. Now, he does lack athleticism. Like, that's why he's got the Preston Williams comp, is that if you pull up his workout metrics, there's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing. It's like 4th percentile speed score, but he is 6'3". He's 215 pounds. Maybe they utilize him as like in the slot because he doesn't have athleticism. We don't know anything about a burst and agility score, but hey, we saw it with Preston Williams a couple of years ago. This situation could be very similar for Sage Surratt.
Right.
The other receiver that I've got is Cade Johnson. Like, so you had Tamari and Terry, undrafted Seahawks receiver. I like the other undrafted Seahawks receiver, and Cade Johnson, who played at a small school. And his top 5 comps, there were 3 notable names. His top comp is Diontae Johnson. Remember this player that came out of nowhere his rookie season. I was like, what the heck? Like, why are the Pittsburgh Steelers drafting Diontae Johnson? We knew nothing about him. Nothing really looked impressive about his profile. Cade Johnson is not a very athletic guy, but he's got Peter Warwick and Stedman Bailey in his top 5 comps. Those were some pretty explosive players. And
I remember Stedman Bailey.
Yeah, Stedman Bailey, he flashed and just had the unfortunate accident there. But there were a couple of things that caught my attention. One, you talked about, like, they drafted Dwayne Eskridge in the 2nd round. I know, and we both agree, they have 3 draft picks. Why draft a receiver? But sometimes a team's actions tell you everything you need to know, right? And with them drafting Dwayne Eskridge,
Freddie Swain.
Apparently it's they don't believe in Freddie Swain as much as they. Yeah, that I think that ended up being coach speak here. But you got to follow the actions of the team. They drafted Dwayne Eskridge in the 2nd round. That's a telling sign of maybe they're not so sold on the incumbent backups. Like, obviously Metcalf and Lockett, those are going to be the 2 main guys. And Eskridge, based on his draft capital, should be the number 3 guy. But I think it's also a telling sign that all the incumbent guys there, Freddie Swain, Penny Hart, John Ursula, they're not sold on these guys. And they brought in Tamari and Terry. They brought in Cade Johnson. There's going to be competition there. What stands out about Cade Johnson is, in this class, you can check this out on Breakout Finder, the Breakout Finder app, he had a 67.0 dynamic score. That was the 3rd best in the class. It was actually just 4 points below Kadarius Toney of the University of Florida. And everyone talks about how dynamic Kadarius Toney is, with Cade Johnson just not that far off in terms of the dynamic score. On top of that, in 3 seasons, he compiled 1,500 yards of special team yardage, primarily return yardage. And if you're going to be an undrafted guy, the first thing you got to do is you have to make the team before you have any fantasy success whatsoever. And the primary way for undrafted guys is make the team on special teams.
Correct.
With Cade Johnson's return yards, the important thing here is their primary punt returner last year was David Moore, who of course is in Carolina. There's an opening right there for a punt returner. And I like Tamari and Terry as the better overall prospect, but Cade Johnson may have the better chance of making the team because he should be able to compete and win the job as the punt returner for the Seahawks. And all it takes is you make the job on special teams and you keep practicing and you're getting better as a player. Boom, thanks to coaching. Cade Johnson may end up being the slot receiver. He is strictly a slot receiver. It's something I want to say the number is, in his career, he ran 82% of his snaps out of the slot. That will limit some of his upside there, but he is the perfect slot receiver. And Tyler Lockett's not running as much of his stuff out of the slot. There could be a chance for Cade Johnson to maybe even be that number 3 receiver, even with Dwayne Eskridge. It depends on how they utilize him, or at the very least, he ends up being the backup slot. So love Cade Johnson. Those are my 2 receivers. I don't know. Do you have anything to add on Sage Surratt or Cade Johnson?
No, not at all. I do like Cade Johnson. but I went with Tamari and Terry, obviously. But I do like Kay Johnson. So I like everything you said about him for sure. But yes, continue on.
Certainly. And I know you provided the undrafted running back to target, Javeon Hawkins. I have 3 running backs that are interesting for different reasons. Mm-hmm. The first one I want to talk about is Stevie Scott from the University of Indiana. He ended up signing with the New Orleans Saints. Now, obviously, the Saints have Alvin Kamara, and they still have Latavius Murray to spell Alvin Kamara. First, let's talk about Stevie Scott, the prospect. Comes in 6 foot, 225 pounds, has a 30.5, 58th percentile BMI. Awesome. He has size. Size is important. He should be able to hold up in the NFL. The other thing, too, is he played 3 seasons at Indiana, and he saw at least 18 targets in each of those seasons. So he's also involved in the passing game. Cool. His target share actually increased each year of football, which shows I like seeing that. I like seeing gradual improvement in things. So he topped in 2020 at 6.5% target share. That is very respectable. We're starting to see a guy that has the build of a 3-down running back. Now, he doesn't really have the workout metrics for it, but you look at the production. He's actually scored 10 or more touchdowns in each of his 3 seasons, totaling 32 touchdowns in 31 career games. If he's scoring touchdowns, he's getting goal line work too. So he's getting goal line work. He's getting targeted in the passing game. Those are the things we love. You know who his top comp on Player Profiler is?
James Conner.
James Conner. You like that guy. It's James Conner in a good way. James Conner he's not an athletic guy. And athleticism, we like to see it in our running backs, but I don't care so much about a 40-yard dash. I really don't. A running back's not going to run 40 yards. They're just, if they're able to do that, awesome. But the Saquon Barkleys are rare in this world. But for Stevie Scott, I see a guy that is built to handle the between the tackle role, which Alvin Kamara's got some strength to his game, but he's used primarily as kind of the lightning in that Saints backfield. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned Latavius Murray. And of course, I've got to fit my one salary cap thing here. So Latavius Murray, he's not even guaranteed a spot this year.
Oh, right.
I will play it safe and I'll say that they keep him. But in next offseason, 2022, he's a cap casualty. They can cut him and save almost $3.5 million. That's a lot for a backup running back.
Right.
And if Stevie Scott comes in, busts his tail, is able to show the Saints coaching staff that he can run. I'm going to say his role is going to be between the tackles, be the grinder there, but also he can catch those short passes as well. They may move on from Latavius Murray, and it's not far-fetched. If you look in 2020, this past season, he had a 12.4% juke rate. That was number 60 amongst running backs. Ooh. And he averaged 0.85 yards created per touch. That was number 53. Latavius Murray, he's not a good running back. He benefited because the run blocking was pretty good in New Orleans, but he's not really do anything when you give him the ball. He's getting exactly what is blocked for him. Latavius Murray's getting up there in age. With the Saints in the cap situation that they're at, they're going to have to cut costs somewhere. Why not move on from Latavius Murray and all the other running backs there? They have Dwayne Washington. They've got Ty Montgomery. These are special teams players at best. These aren't guys that are going to do anything on offense. The Dwayne Washington, that's how he's made his career, his 5-year career in the NFL, is strictly off special teams. Stevie Scott, I think, has the upside to be that eventual replacement for Latavius Murray. I moved from – you have anything for Stevie Scott?
Nope.
Gotcha.
I agree. Other than maybe we call him Terminator 2.
Terminator 2. I like it.
James Conner.
It's going to end up in Arizona, just like Conner. But I got 2 more running backs, and they follow the same trend. The thing I'm looking for undrafted rookie running backs is, first off, size. I go to Dion Jackson of the Indianapolis Colts. Has almost similar size, 5'11", 218 pounds. That BMI is right around Stevie Scott. The impressive thing about Dion Jackson is not only does he have size, he has the workout metrics too. He ran a 4.47 40-yard dash. That's 87th percentile. When it's adjusted with his height and weight, it's a 109.2. It's 90th percentile speed score. So we got a guy with good BMI. Like, he can handle a workload. And 90th percentile speed score? Yes, please. On top of that, he has a 71st percentile burst score. I like that stat for running backs. I like burst score because that to me is explosiveness, their ability to hit the holes. So Dion Jackson is so far checking a lot of boxes here. Now the question becomes why was he undrafted? Well, look at some of his advanced stats. He was able to catch the ball. His target share was 6.8%. That's 49th percentile. And his Spark X score was a respectable 112.2. That's 54th percentile. He just didn't really, he played on a bad Duke team. And he's not, his yards per carry was not impressive at all.
No.
However, I see a potential role for him in this Colts offense. And it starts by looking at the running backs ahead of him. Jonathan Taylor is clearly the starter. He's not coming to replace Jonathan Taylor. However, Jonathan Taylor wasn't the only fantasy relevant running back in a Frank Reich offense. Nyheim Hines was very productive because he was catching passes out of the backfield. On top of that, Marlon Mack and Jordan Wilkins are still there. And the three running backs that aren't Jonathan Taylor, Hines, Mack, and Wilkins, they're all free agents this year. They're not going to keep them all. They can't. And in fact, Nyheim Hines may have priced himself out of town. And this is where I see Dion Jackson fitting in. Dion Jackson had a 9.5% target share in 2019, his junior season. And his average target share for his career, as I mentioned, was in the 49th percentile. That's respectable. Dion Jackson also has an ability that we never really talked much about Dion Jackson. That's his return ability. He actually, in 2018, led the Duke Blue Devils with 23 kick returns for 502 yards. The reason I mention that is that's Nyheim Hines. Nyheim Hines is the return man. He's the running back that returns kicks. He's the running back that catches passes. I see Dion Jackson as a guy that they are going to groom to potentially replace Nyheim Hines because they might not be able to afford Nyheim Hines. There's a role for Dion Jackson. And I think he makes the team over Jordan Wilkins too. If they see enough good things from Dion Jackson, like Wilkins doesn't really add much at all. So it's thinking ahead. We're trying to find these guys and get them a year ahead. Like, go ahead and roster Dion Jackson, and if Hines is gone, boom, they've got their guy that's under contract. And don't worry, like he'll be involved primarily in the pass game. He's not going to do much as a runner. He at least has good size, but he's not much of a runner. But he could be the Hines replacement.
There you go.
And my final guy, I'd be curious to see if you've heard of this guy, Garrett Groshak from Nebraska.
Yes.
You have heard of him. Okay. He ended up signing with the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, Nebraska produced this running back called Jonathan Taylor, who played there from 2017 to 2019, or Groshak's first 3 seasons. The impressive thing is Groshak had 3 straight seasons with 20-plus receptions that started in 2018. So while Jonathan Taylor was playing football in 2018 and 2019, Groshak was still out there catching passes. He had a 12.6%, 88th percentile target share, including a 13.4% target share in 2020. Like, this guy did one great thing, and that's this 5'11", 220-pound running back was someone they trusted in the passing game. Once again, a guy that has great BMI. That's what I like from undrafted running backs. He has a role. He'll be a pass catcher. In fact, his best comparable player is Dare Ogunbowale, the former Tampa Bay Buccaneer. I don't know where he's at. I want to say he was in Jacksonville, but
that's where he last was, but I don't know.
And Ogunbowale had to make it on special teams, and then he ended up having a decent season of catching a lot of passes in the backfield. He also has some player comps of Darrell Williams and Mike Davis. Mike Davis being the most notable one. Now, these comps aren't the flashiest names, but sometimes what I look for in comps are players that can play in the NFL today, or at least have roles. It's good to see that Garrett Groshak has 3 of his top 5 best comparable players be guys that have made at least decent careers in the NFL. They've hung around as backups. And then Mike Davis, when he got his chance, he seized it. He had a massive season. Now he's in Atlanta as the starting running back. Garrett Groshak is going to catch passes. You look at the depth chart right now. Yes, Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake are the 2 guys ahead of him on the depth chart. Behind them, there isn't. The pass catching specialists are Jalen Richard, Theo Riddick, if he's still a thing. They've got competition from Trey Ragas, who's a fellow undrafted rookie. I want to say he spent about 15 years in college, is what it seems. and for Garrett Groshak, if your main competition is Jalen Richard, that is competition that he can beat. And if he doesn't, then he's nothing. You cut him. Oh, well, you move on to the next guy. But we could see Groshak making the Raiders as their 3rd string running back that focuses primarily on catching passes. And when 5'11", 220 pounds, he's got size. And what I also left out is that when Jonathan Taylor finally left for the pros in 2020, it was Groshak that had a slight edge in carries. He led the team in carries with 67. So he doesn't have a lot of mileage on him. And what he has shown is that even when there was a talented, I don't want to say generational yet, but a top tier running back prospect in Jonathan Taylor ahead of him on the depth chart, he was still out there catching 20 plus catches in college as a running back. This guy's got a skill set that works in PPR leagues. Garrett Groshak, check him out.
Faux show. Dude, I love it. I actually remember when I was going through the list of undrafted free agents and I came across this dude. I was like, that's an interesting name. And he was in Wisconsin.
I said Nebraska earlier. I have offended Wisconsin fans. Sorry, it's Wisconsin, not Nebraska. Oh, my bad.
I didn't even catch you saying.
As I was saying it, I knew it was wrong, but if my brain, it's late here.
No, that's all right. Hey,
but sorry.
You know me. I make mistakes too. We just lean into that here. We just lean into the mistakes. Transparency all the way. But I really do remember going through those because I remember the first thing I thought of when I landed on that dude's profile was, he's got some hair. He's got some hair, that guy. Anyway. So, and I did want to say, because there were a couple of guys that you mentioned, as I said, that I like, Stevie Scott being one. There were some guys, because Kay Johnson, I just couldn't get them all. So I had to go with the guys that I felt best fit the list based on several different factors. Landing spot was a big one. That's hard with receivers because there's so many receivers anyway. You get to the undrafted ones, most of them are going to be kind of buried on the depth chart, but I think you brought some good ones. And then I would say, I mentioned Puka a couple of times and you didn't bring him up, and I only bring him up because there's no Gio Bernard in Cincinnati. I do not give 2 shits about Samaje Perine, even though the Bengals seem to be pushing him a little bit. So I wonder, could it be Trayvon Williams' time? Or will it be Puka Williams' time? Because I would think one of these 2 guys has to take it. That role, if there's no Gio Bernard, it can't be Samaje Perine, right? Not all year, maybe to begin, but he's not going to be the 2 to the 1-2 punch with Mixon, is he? Granted, Mixon's going to lead the backfield, but they're going to have someone to come third, just like Gio's role. Is it really going to be Samaje Perine? Because I have a hard time with that.
There's opportunity. Absolutely. And Puka Williams, I guess he's the Devontae Smith of the running backs, where when really the only thing you can nitpick is you go 170 pounds for a running back. That's hard to get behind.
I know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with it's like almost every running back past the top 3. And
they all have flaws.
And that's why I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a statement by only putting one in, because I have to put Javeon Hawkins in because he's like the perfect guy to put in. But yes, I love the conversation because I started becoming a fan of trying to figure these guys out, the undrafted guys, a few years ago. Like before I was writing about him, like I had Preston Williams on several teams and he fucking hit. And it's like, hey, there you go. And so I really dig getting into the undrafted guys. So thank you for having that conversation with me. It's very fun. I very much enjoy it. And I think we're good for now. We're going to go ahead and end this tea party. Been a fun show. And I guess before we go, if you'd like, we didn't really mention redraft strategy. And I guess for me, the only thing I would say that I really do differently is I'm definitely still targeting running backs early. They just don't have to be young. Just target the best running backs early in redraft. And then, obviously wait on quarterback, wait on tight end. I'm always a big fan of if you're at a point in the draft and you like we discussed earlier, and you don't see anything you like running back or receiver, don't be afraid if you can't trade back or anything. Don't be afraid to take a tight end or a quarterback, because if you do take one that early, you're going to have a slight edge at the position for sure. So I'm never against doing that if you really feel like there's not anything of value there, because that's happened to me before. And I've been like, okay, I guess I'm rolling George Kittle this year. Like, just because I'm like, I don't like any running backs or receivers right here. Let's go Kittle. So, But that's kind of, I kind of follow a lot of the same things, but you got to do things slightly differently when it comes to redraft.
Absolutely. And kind of the same, get your running backs early, and not reaching is important. Like, you want to have a flexible strategy that allows you to, you go into the draft going, I'm going to get my tight end late, but don't be stupid. If Kittle starts to fall, grab him. Kelsey starts to fall short, grab him. Be flexible so that you can take advantage when, because your drafts are going to be different from other drafts. So you're drafting in a home league or a work league, they're not going to value players the same way. Like, be flexible is the number one thing. Don't go in with a set plan of 0 running back, 0 wide receiver. You kind of take what the draft gives you. You can adjust on the fly.
Right. I love that. That was my biggest thing when I wrote about draft strategy over the past couple of months. That's what you need to do, is be flexible. That's one of the most important things you can do. Sure, you want to have a good idea of what you'd like to do, but don't stick to it. You got to be able to move with the flow of the draft. That's right, the flow of the draft. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Hope you check out all of our content on playerprofiler.com. Check out our... Sorry, there was a bug. I've been trying to catch... It's a little gnat. I've been trying to catch the fucker all day. Anyway, so check out our stuff on the Twitters at RMK Madness for me, at Stu09 for the March Heron over there. You got the Pods account at DW_pod. And speaking of pods, don't forget to check out my other pod, Miscellaneous Debris, where you can find this one. And there you go. By the way, Aaron, what do you think about me getting a gold tooth?
I said do it. Get a that could be maybe a Mother's Day gift to your wife, right? Like, I got a gold tooth.
She was the one I was talking to about it, because I used to have great teeth, and then like towards the end of alcoholism, it totally messed them up. And between energy drinks and just bouts of depression where I didn't take care of my teeth. I've kind of developed some issues. And I know there's one right here that I know at some point I'm going to have issues with. At some point, it's coming out. It's not going to be there forever. So at some point, it's going to need replaced. And I'm thinking I'm going to roll some gold. And the wife didn't hate it. So if she doesn't hate it, I'm probably going to do it. I'm not going to lie.
Let's
because
do it.
why the fuck not? Why the fuck not? I feel like it fits me. And yeah, why the fuck not? We'll see. I just had to get your opinion. And you said go for it. So that yes.
I'm supportive. Let's do it.
There you go. The March Heron's blessing. Okay. All right. I'm gonna get this music set up. We're gonna get the hell out of here. It is late. I'm sure Aaron is ready for sleep. Shit, I'm ready for sleep. Well, really, I'm ready for food first. If I'm to be completely honest. Okay. Thank you everybody for joining. Next week, I'm thinking we'll talk maybe a little startup draft strategy. I might put a little game together because we're likely to have a special guest. And we may have a special guest for consecutive week. We may have some guests coming down the line. That's right. Got some people interested. We'll see what happens. We'll see. Aaron's excited. Got the beer going. That's right. Because it's fun. As awesome as it is, just the two of us, because we flow so well, it is nice to bring someone else in. We had a lot of fun with Cody, so it'll be nice to do that again. We'll see what happens. Okay, everybody. As always, that's not the right damn music. Great way to end the show. Yes, that's okay. We got me doing wrong stuff and blah, 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 and Aaron calling Nebraska, Wisconsin, Nebraska. It's okay. This is what we do here. This is why
I've offended college football fans. It's that's all right. That's
no, yeah, it's all right. This is why we're the best, because we just have fun, man. And womans, we just have fun. That's how it is. So now try this again. Yeah. Much love to everyone. From Aaron himself, enjoy your week. Draft well if you're in a draft. And for now, latest.